Hey, what's up, everybody? BDL44 coming at you another video. All right, so I figured I'd give me a couple seconds of time to let my food cook and talk a little Lakers, see what comes out of it. Of course, we've already done a Laker chat video earlier today, combined it with the NBA talking about the referees and just overall with some of the stuff that we didn't like from the Lakers and Celtics game. Now, I want to talk about some of the further aftermath because we understand that Anthony Davis and LeBron James will not be playing in the next game against Brooklyn. And some people are thinking it's a protest in regards to what happened against the referees. They know how much this game means to the NBA with it being in Brooklyn, New York. Last week I said, the schedule makers really played themselves, putting the Lakers 2 New York games back to back. You played yourself. There's a very good chance the Stars aren't even going to play in that game. On paper, you can see that on paper. So it's like, it's the middle of January. Got older players that don't play back-to-backs. And you're going to put the New York games back-to-back? Okay. I just never thought that was the smartest idea. So here we are looking at this situation where they ain't going to be played. You got 2 marquee situations, 2 huge marquee matchups on national television, and you're only going to see Kyrie Irving basically to represent the star power. He's going to be going up against Rui Hachimura and those guys. The Lakers, to be honest with you, I understand that you want to manage the rest of the season just in general, regardless if this is a protest or not. But as I said, this is not a time in your season to where my eyesight looks like. Based on what I'm calculating, this ain't the time of the season where you can afford to lose any games anymore. This is one of those situations where it's like this. Good teams understand that you can never really drop any basketball games because you never really know what the future holds. And when it gets down to the last minute, everybody's racing to win games. And the smart teams have already started that process throughout the course of their journey. They're not ever racing to do anything because they know that the race is always, being paced the whole time. So when it gets down to crunch time, if they have to rearrange what it is that they're doing or change their intensity, it should only elevate from what is already in place, which should have been at a high level. Bad teams don't pay any attention to the stuff that's going on in the middle of the situation. They wait to the last minute and they turn it up. It's a bad team does stuff like that. And so Lakers are behaving as if they don't understand the concept I just said. And it looks like they're going to be racing to the end, trying to play crazy great basketball, crazy intense basketball in the last 20 games of the season while they lollygag throughout these games that should have been taken just as seriously, and they could have had a much more smoother, less stressful process throughout the season. So it's just about intellect, man. How are you managing your season? How is your process going? What is it that you're valuing? To me, the Lakers have been doing everything just at a very, very low IQ level, man. Just about everything we've done has just been, oops, yeah, we kind of here. We get it now, kind of almost after a couple mistakes. It's like, how many games are going to drop before we start having some conventional wisdom, you guys? And so that's been the running conversation. It's just everything that they're doing. It's been picked apart. We're looking at our record. We're not pleased with the outcome. We look at the referees. We say they cost us about 6 games. What about the others? We done lost about, 29 games? They ain't cost us all of them, did they? No, small ball did the rest. So that's what we've been talking about, man. We want to see our team take that very seriously. I got a bad feeling we're going to go into this Brooklyn game distracted. Kyrie's healthy. He's going to do what Kyrie does. It's an unguardable force. Obviously, he's had his eyes on the LA Lakers all year long. So clearly he's going to want to show out, and he's going to. I mean, he's going to show out. He's going to do what he does. So the fact that we don't have our stars playing in this game just tells me that we're probably going to have a dogfight with a team that has a star playing at a high level. So I still think that the Brooklyn Nets are one of those teams where it's very tough for them without their stars to get any success going. They're the team that lost to the San Antonio Spurs last week without Kyrie and KD. So we have better talent than them overall, in my humble opinion. But it doesn't mean that you want to go in there without any of your stars, especially given the continuity issues that we have right now with players coming back to the lineup. Obviously, guys that are fresh, in situations with Rui, for example. So it's like, I don't know, man. I think the Lakers are focused on the referees. and probably not focused on what they should be doing to fix whatever mistakes they've made. So that's been on my mind the most. While everybody's talking about the refs, I think that the refs are just a entity that you cannot control. They're going to do what they do regardless. And we've been watching them do it all season. And so here goes my good team, bad team mentality thing. Good teams are going to find themselves, ignoring the referees, taking care of everything that happens between the first 3 quarters so that they're not rushing to the end of the game, trying to make every free throw like every shot matters then, as opposed to the first 3 quarters when everything was really leading up to whatever. They're going to respect all of that, good teams. They're not going to find themselves at the end of games hoping that the game is on the referees to call it or not call it, because they would have done so many good things fundamentally leading up to that point to where they likely would have had the lead stretched out a little bit, taking advantage of the other team's mistakes. So it's like, the refs have to do what they have to do in terms of if they want to rig the game, they're going to have to call certain calls and not call others. But good teams have it worked into their equation that there are things they have to do in regards to not reacting to that in order for them to control what it is that they need to be able to control defensively and offensively, etc. You can't react to the refs, and it's probably in your best interest to ignore them even when you have a gripe. We saw that with Kendrick Nunn when he hit his big clutch 3 and then talked to the refs instead of getting back. We've seen it with Bron many times when he talks to the refs and instead of getting back, it turns into transition buckets, things like that. So that's what it's all about, seeing it all the way through. Whatever the situation is, whether it be a specific play, a specific game, not rushing to the last minute trying to get your best interests met in those moments. Nah, great teams and good teams respect what leads up to it and take every free throw seriously, every possession seriously, so that they ain't got to rush at the end. And speaking of rushing at the end, it's one thing that I always think about, and it's kind of what goes wrong with the Lakers. Down the stretch of the basketball game yesterday when they didn't foul in overtime with like 15 seconds to go, they just refused. They let like 20 seconds go off the clock or whatever it was, obviously exaggerating, but they allowed a great deal of time to go off the clock without fouling the player that otherwise could have been sent to the line. And I just understood that was mismanagement. And it speaks to something that I used to see a lot of times when I would play video games, more or less. And I always refer to that because my experience with the game has shown me so much in that way. But it's just the same, because you'll see if you don't play to the very last play, down to the very last second, regardless of whether or not you should be in overtime or if it's regulation or what have you, you are going to find yourself having empty effort being given all game long, playing so very well up to the last moment. I can't tell you how many times I thought I had a game won with 1 or 2 seconds to go and just didn't play a good enough defense that very last second. I was doing everything good enough to keep up with the guy, but he made one more better play than me. And having lost so many games like that over the years, it helped me understand the importance of having that focus all the way to the end. And that's what went wrong with the Lakers. Yes, did we not get the call at the layup from LeBron? Yes. But in overtime, did we show any poise? None. And those were 5 minutes that we had control over. 5 minutes we could have run this, that, in the third and put ourselves in a position to be in a much better spot. But we started drinking, as I like to call it. Started thinking about woe is us. Thinking about the fact that they didn't call the call when that was a million different things that we could have controlled that had nothing to do with that. And it's like, those are the things you don't want to talk about when you have a legitimate grievance. Because the refs did what the refs did, but that ain't all that happened there. And because that ain't all that happened there, you could have controlled things that they didn't have any control over and could have won you the basketball game. And if you're a real competitor, you're not going to find yourself sad at the end of games that they fix. Because you would have not only beaten your opponent, but you would have beat them just the same, because that's what's required. See, I'm a different type of thinker, bro. I don't care how many different antagonists coming up against me. I'm here to beat all of them. The refs, my coach and his bad decision making, my missed shots if I'm missing them, turnovers, the defense, the offense, anything that's coming up against our team, our egos, our chemistry issues, the schedule, lack of sleep, my diet, all of it. All of it needs to be beaten. All of it needs to fail at my feet when I'm a competitor. I kid you not. And those who understand that to the fullest defeat the others. They defeat everybody because they not only are beating the teams that are coming up against them with respect, but they're defeating each and every other little antagonist that would otherwise come in their way of winning the basketball game or winning the championship. See, when you're chasing stats, you ain't thinking about that kind of stuff. What do I need to do to beat the antagonist coming against me? If it's chemistry, then I just sit down and have some conversations. That's equivalent to sliding my feet on defense to the left or to the right, is it not? Because it's going to lead to me getting success on the plays that I need to do. I got to sit down with Russell Westbrook and explain to him what I need from him or whatever. That's equivalent to me keeping my arms up and contesting a shot, because I know if I get him on the same page, we can probably get some good things going. You know what I mean? And if I don't, it's like leaving somebody open to shoot a three by themselves. These are the type of things. It's like if you start realizing these various antagonists coming up against you, you start knocking all of them off, not just the defense, but the weakness within that would otherwise allow you to think that doing things the wrong way is the right way to go. Heck no. We're trying to win. We're not trying to win my way. We're trying to win the way. Whatever way, you know what I'm saying? Whatever it takes. Because at the end of the day, we want to be the ones happy at the end of these games. And if the referee's not calling the whistle, it's going to leave us sad. Then we need to take care of everything leading up to that point so that that's not leading us to our sadness. It's just another thing to defeat. See, I understand what greatness really is. It's going to beat all that little stuff, all the little things that ultimately lead to it closing in on the victory no matter what. It did all those little things. A lot of those things you don't even see. You don't see those things. But greatness is definitely going to see those things because it has to beat those things in order to win. It ain't going to be sad at the end of the game on his hands and knees because they didn't call a call. Because we made all the layups and all the free throws leading up to that. Because we played defense all the way through on every possession. Because we matched up with every guy that they put on the floor. So even when they did what they did, it wasn't enough. Because we outthought them. We recognized and identified every antagonist coming against us. And we did what we need to do to put it down. And great ones know how to do that. Great ones study others who knew how to do that and incorporate it into their own stuff. They leave themselves no excuses, including the referees' legitimate gripes in fixing games. They can't fix what you take care of. They didn't force Pat Beverly to take 10 shots. They didn't force Rui Hachimura to take 4 threes and miss them all. They didn't force Troy Brown to go 1 for 5. They didn't force Coach not to play Thomas and Wenyon and Max Christie. None of that stuff had anything to do with the referees calling anything. Those are choices that led to them having so much control over the game. They would have had to work a lot harder and been a lot more blatant to fix things if we would have fixed things properly. So that's the focus, man. I take the onus off of the referees because they're going to do whatever they got to do. And I'm not going to be sad at the end of the games they fix. I'm not going to be sad. I'm going to play so perfect, everybody going to wonder how the heck that happened. You see what I'm saying? And that's the difference between what it is that we saw and what it is I would have wished we could have seen. We didn't play all that perfect. And what bothers me is it's a whole bunch of Lakers who in unison understand that and are focused on that call. And we know why. It's the politics of it. It's the same reason why Brian ain't getting his calls. It's just exactly why. It's all politics, man. Reacting to politics in a negative way. There's a whole entity that doesn't like what's going on with Brian, and you clearly see they're pushing against it. And Brian, that's exactly what it is. And look, man, even then, I know that if I don't have Patrick Beverly shooting 10 shots, it's a lot harder for them to do. See what I'm saying? It's like, nah, I don't want the pros on the side of the losing to focus only on what they didn't have anything to do with. That's a child's mindset. That's the mindset I would have had when I didn't understand that I was responsible for keeping my dog away from my homework. That was then. It's only the ref's fault. It's only the ref's fault. When I was a kid, for sure. That's the only conversation to be had. And any conversation like this was irritating because I'm taking the refs off the hook, right? Until you mature and realize that you still got a game to win. That's the difference. You still got a grade to graduate. You gotta level up. You can't let what's coming against you, whether it be something conventional or some corruption, keep you from leveling up. Because you got your own thing to focus on. So if it's going to be another antagonist, we just work with that too. Work around that too. We adjust to that too. Just like they adjust to the rules, we adjust to the corruption just the same. I'm telling you, man, we adapt to whatever. I've never thought of the human mindset as something that couldn't adapt to anything. Like literally anything. You will condition yourself to deal. You will. And so when it comes to stuff like this, if you know what's coming, you just deal with it. I got an example for you. I have issues a lot with the app that I use, Apple Music app. A lot of times, because I don't have Wi-Fi in this apartment, the app will not add music to different playlists that I'm trying to add it to. It makes it difficult for me. I have to get out of the app and jump back in. And what I've learned is the little trick to it all is going directly to the app's base, stopping the app, clearing not the data, but the cache, and then starting the app all over again. You go to the home screen, wait 20 seconds, it'll reload, then you can add approximately 1 or 2 songs before the process starts all over again. I believe it's in place to antagonize Android users who happen to want to use Apple's playlist. That's what I believe. And it's been in place for years. And every time they do an update, it's a new way to screw over users, right? Now, this is something I know. I'm a playlist curator. I make playlists twice a week. But what I've also understood is it took me a long time to figure out that process. I was messing up, sitting there waiting for it to load, sometimes 5 and 10 minutes while it would just sit there pretending like it didn't know what it was doing. Sometimes it would add different songs that it wasn't supposed to add. I had to work around the corruption itself. I had to figure out what worked for me in order for me to succeed so I can make my playlist properly without songs being all over the place. It take 3 and 4 times more to complete my playlist because of it. But I cheat the game. I figured out how the game was cheating me and I cheated it. You know what they do now? Instead of 20 seconds, they've added some time to it. I know the count. It was usually 20 seconds. You reset, boom, go to the home screen, give it about 20 seconds. It's going to reload regardless if you got Wi-Fi, anything. They've made it so now it's like 27 seconds. They slowed it down so that you think you're going crazy because you know how the rhythm goes. You do this all the time. But no, they slowed it down even further just because they realized you figured it out. So what do? Add a couple extra seconds to your patience. Because it doesn't stop nothing. I know what they're doing. I know how to stop it. Now, it's in place to corrupt me. I'm supposed to be able to I'm supposed to be throwing my phone all over the house because I can't make playlists no more. I'm supposed to be deterred and probably buy an iPhone so that I don't have this problem no more. You think I'm going to go through that route? Hell no. I'm not going to go that route. Why? Because I figured them out. Me missing the layup ain't stopped me from winning the game. Them not calling the call on the layup didn't stop me from winning the game. My playlist gets complete regardless. Why? Because instead of sitting there being all frustrated about what it is that they're doing to corrupt the situation, I figured out what they're doing and then working into my equation. It's a rule change as far as I can tell. Now I can't hand check. All right, adjust. But it sure ain't gonna be me losing. Hell no. It sure ain't gonna be me not completing my playlist. Please. You kidding me? Apple can't stop me with their little funny little stuff. I'm smarter than it. I'm smarter than the corruption they put in place for basic minds to be frustrated by. I'm not. And neither are you if you focus on what it is we're talking about. You figure out what they're doing. You working into your equation. And you keep evolving forth. That's what it is. Because otherwise you're going to be reacting to what it is the corruption does, and that'll send you into a frenzy that kicks you off your business. You focus on everything but getting better, and you lose more games because of it. They still win. This is what we're fighting against. Almost a guaranteed loss in Brooklyn. Why? Because we focus on what they did in Boston. Man, this Brooklyn game is just as important. It's a whole nother win we need to capture. That's why you focus on your tendencies. Because there's going to be things outside of what you can control. We've been talking about this all season. This is what I've been trying to preach all season long. Because of this variable with the refs and a million different other ones like health, unprecedented situations like the pandemic, you don't know what's coming. But what you do know is if you take care of what you can control, whatever's coming, you're going to be straight. You're going to be aligned, on point, and high frequency, because ain't nothing going to stop you from doing what you need to do. And if you're a well-oiled machine, it ain't really matter what's going on around you. You're still going to be chopping straight through whatever the madness is, especially if you're great at what you're doing. You chop straight through it. As I used to say in regards to people who were so great at what they did. Remember when Kobe was going through what happened in Denver? The talent was going to bleed through. All he needed to do was get on the court. He was going to be himself. Greatness is what greatness is. Just like scrubs are scrubs, greatness is greatness too. And it's going to display that. And if you study it, you can display it yourself. So I don't believe in no more getting frustrated about nothing these days. I'm trying my best to focus on every weakness there is, struggling in my personal life, but understand the concepts as I apply them to this channel, to this team. You can apply all of this. There's no reason for LeBron James to have his hands on his knees because those guys didn't call the call. He didn't lose the game because they didn't call the call. Lost the game because all that other stuff leading up to that wasn't done correctly. And I think the moral of the story is to win, not for them to call the calls. The moral of the story is to win. So you got to defeat that. You got to work around that corruption. You got to evolve through that corruption. And to be honest with you, all they can really control is what they call. So if you're not looking for calls, you're never going to be concerned. It's that simple. It's jailhouse ball, man. Jailhouse ball. The difficulty's turned up. You can't foul, they can foul you. It's a game. Think about it. It's a game. It's new rules. It's just harder to play. It ain't impossible to play. You'll master that game just like you mastered this one. You know, there was a game they told you had to bounce the ball and run at the same time and then shoot it into a basket. You know how hard that is to do? But generations over time get used to it, and then you can evolve the rules, and now people jumping and twisting and twirling, all kinds of stuff. I'm telling you, what we're talking about is very difficult if you're not conditioned to do it. So whatever they're adding to it or taking from it is just, you know what I mean? It's just byproduct of that. Adjust. They can foul you. You can't foul them. What does that mean? What does that mean? That means on every play I'm driving to the rim, I'm not looking to get contact. I'm looking to connect. So if I can't connect, it ain't no sense of driving there. If I can't get to the bucket and make the shot go in, it's a waste of time. See what I'm saying? You just adjust. It's your mindset. So a lot of that stuff that we're doing, driving to the rim, laying the ball up, knowing we ain't going to lay the ball up, knowing it's not going to get there, laying the ball up over Al Horford, lost possessions. Driving at the rim, missing layups, lost possessions. You don't even seek those out. You might as well be shooting half-court shots. They're not going to go. They're not going to call it. Adjust. See what I'm saying? There are ways. You just got to seek it out and not give yourself no excuses not to. The Milwaukee Bucks are going to force you to shoot mid-range shots. This is one of the things we surmise. They don't only give you the paint. They don't give you the three. You have to shoot the mid-range. So you shoot the mid-range. Simple. Take what the defense gives you. This ain't no different. The defense is now another antagonist, and it's the Zebras. They're going to call everything against us, so adjust. And when you've made the adjustment to where you're conditioned to what it is I'm talking about, then you'll start finding them calls come more frequently than you're expecting them to, because you never expect them. Then you're a much better player altogether because you're never missing layups, never even going toward the your shot selection going to be better because you know empty layups are not going to equal any calls whatsoever, so you'll never attempt them. No different than a three-point shot. You ain't going to shoot 43s because we know we're not a good enough three-point shooting team. We're not going to drive at the lane without any idea as to how it's going to go in because we know they're not going to call it. Adjustment. It's the Kobe minute, man. Where you think I get this from? It's the Mamba. That's where I get it from. He gave us no excuses. He wasn't nice. He didn't care about nothing but winning. He attacked his weaknesses. He worked harder than everybody else. He got up earlier, went to sleep later. So I give nobody excuses. This is who I studied. This is who taught me what greatness is. And when I see anything less than that or some variation of that that's not strong, I know it can get stronger. I know that greatness can get stronger. I know LeBron James ain't the greatest player he can be. I know that. Because there's still levels of killer he needs to develop. See what I'm saying? There's levels of killer he needs to develop. He was sad last night. He should have been angry. This is how you raise. You know what I mean? The way we was raised, Kobe, the way we was raised over here in LA, nah. He would have got up off his knees and then proceeded to score 20 in overtime. Why? Because the refs pissed him off and the other team had to deal with that. It's all in how you handle it. LeBron James went into overtime defeated. He barely had anything left for anybody because he was too busy thinking about what didn't come his way. But nah, you got to take something. Champions take something. Or they have something taken from them. See, Kobe couldn't go over there and not have a killer instinct because Timmy wasn't playing. Timmy was winning championships every year if Kobe wasn't. So if you wasn't going to be on point, he was going to beat you, referees or not. Timmy had games where the referees kicked him out the game for looking at him. I'll never forget it. Tim Duncan, one of our greatest ops, got kicked out of a game because the referee didn't like how he looked at the man. So these are the type of things that's like, nobody getting cut no slack in them days. You know what I'm saying? You ain't getting it. You may get your calls. How many calls didn't Shaq get? You know how many times Shaq got hit and didn't get the call? And the argument was he was dishing out more punishment, which is fair. Because he would throw an elbow in somebody's neck every time. It's a different league, Bron. You getting hit on the arm, you should have got that call based on your history. But to be honest with you, there were eras where you would have never gotten that call and nobody would ever give you anything. They wouldn't have said nothing to you. Because they expect you to dunk that ball. See what I'm saying? That's another thing. That's Jason Tatum. You laying the ball up? No. That's another reason why they didn't call it. You didn't go hard. Nobody's going to say that. But it's true. It's the same thing I said about Russell Westbrook. It's about what you're doing leading up to it. Are they going to give you what you're looking for, or are they going to give you what you take from them? Leave them no excuse. You know, Jason Tatum's arm should have been broken on that play. It's the last second of the game. You got to dunk the ball. If he going to block it, that thing needs to be in half. You LeBron James. You know what I mean? Like, these are the type of things I know it's the difference. I know it's the difference. And I'm not mad at Bron. I want Bron to be himself, but I'm telling you, it's the difference between being a champion killer that wins and takes championships from everybody and somebody whose record ain't all that great, man. It's how you handle these moments. Are you a master of these moments, or are these moments a master of you? That's the difference. Michael and Kobe, they were masters of those moments. Last two minutes of the game, they're taking you apart. If you don't know how to close a basketball game, you're going to get beat. It wasn't even an issue about, you could fall into a win against those Lakers. Nah, you couldn't fall into a win. That wasn't possible. Kobe was way too focused on beating you and enjoyed too much seeing you lose to allow you to just happenstance fall into a win because he made some mistakes down the stretch of a basketball. He didn't make no mistakes. Way too much homework, studied way too hard, did way too much practicing to make mistakes. To close a game? Are you kidding me? Missed free throws didn't happen very often. Not down the stretch. Clock management, we didn't foul somebody. We forgot to foul. Maybe 3 times in about 20 years. Maybe 3 times. Clock management, we didn't have nothing in overtime. Didn't happen very often. You know what I'm saying? These are the type of things that's like, I know the difference. And it's not an indictment on LeBron. He needs to do the homework. Go study. Learn what we learned. Go see it. And I know Bron's a historian of the game, so he can go in. He can have somebody access all them Laker games from 2001, 2002. He needs to study them games. Because they will help him. The last 3 minutes of those basketball games will help him in the games that he's playing right now. I say it over and over again, man. He's leaving championships on the table. Just like Russell Westbrook. I will not deny when I see guys who destroy teams through a regular season, through the meat and potatoes of basketball games, 1 through 3 quarters, first half of the fourth quarter, killing them. And in the second half of the fourth quarter, they turn into somebody else. They turn into somebody bashful. They turn into somebody who doesn't know how to close. All that hard work, and they just can't win. And it kills me because I'm like, I know you're better than these dudes. I know you're better than them. But you got a different game to master once that clock starts looking a certain way. It's an entirely different sport. And that's what these guys haven't been taught, man. Russell Westbrook's been great at the first 3 quarters and a half. In final 4 minutes, he ain't in the NBA for that. He ain't in the NBA at that level. You see what I'm saying? Guys in the NBA for the first 3 quarters and a half, but they're not a professional when it comes to them closings. And so that's my thing. It's like, let's become professional at closing. Let's disarm ourselves from being the worst basketball team in terms of closing, and let's start working on what it is that we need to do to get better at it. And look, I can't overcome the fact that certain things are just going to happen because of the deficiencies of the roster. But at the same time, if I surmise that we can do things a little better and we're just not doing them, I'd at least like to see those things tried before I just assume that the team just can't do it. And I'm honest when I say I haven't always seen those things tried. So it's like, nah, I can't roll with the team is just deficient. All year long I've been hearing the team's deficient, and then I see us play the players I want us to play and see us win the games that I want us to win. So, I like I said, I don't know how that works, man. I truly believe this team could win a lot more than it does if we just kind of work some of these principles in what I'm talking about into what we're doing. Can't be horrible at rotations and closing. You can't be and shooting. Guys got to get better at things they can control, as we're always saying here. So, I'm not mad at Bron. I look at Bron and I say, it's just the type of beast he is, man. He's a kind guy. That's why I want to surround him with killers, bro. That's why I wanted us to go get us role players that are mean, like the Collins kid that Russell threw to the ground. I want him on my squad because I need to offset all that kindness LeBron has. That's why Patrick Beverley was so important, because LeBron is a nice guy, man. He ain't really trying to take like that. And that's okay, because he can do what it is he does, but I need some takers here, man. I need some killers, bro. Like, it's needed. We need a Dame Lillard, John Morant, crazy killer type that's just going to say no and proceed to take it from you, whatever it is. No, this is ours. And that's what I didn't see from the Lakers last night. They were too busy focused on everything but being competitive against the Celtics. The Celtics beat you, not the refs. Our tendencies helped, but at the end of the day, we got to relish in seeing the other team lose more than we relish in any other thing. And that's not the focus. I'm telling you, competitive nature is not the focus for this basketball club, but it is the driving force behind what I'm talking about, and that is what I'm going to continue to preach. With this Mamba mentality that I've learned by way of the great that gave us that mentality. We're not going to unlearn that, especially since we know it works. So let's work on these tendencies. Let's not give ourselves any excuses. Let's just look at the referees as yet another thing that we need to evolve and work around. And let's surmise how best to do that as a team. And I really do want Rob to make another couple moves to make this chemistry better, man. I don't think it's as much as important as you bringing people in as it is that you just kind of shake some people out. I really believe that. You just disarm this coach from the small ball stuff, as we say, and I believe this team will do just fine in the second half. We'll win a bunch of games, got a lot of home games coming up. We're going to make the playoffs, but we just got to get better at two things: closing and just the rotations need to improve dramatically. And I'm telling you, you keep doing these things the same way, you're going to get the same results. And you're going to have a bad dose of people being ready to fire you, Darvin. Like, you're going to have a whole lot of people screaming for you to be fired at the end of the season if we don't see some changes in this rotation situation, sir. I'm not saying that because I'm lobbying for it necessarily, although I would have fired you yesterday. But that's just me. I think a sound mind would wait to see how this thing plays out overall. I never claimed to be that. I'm a fan who wants to win every game. And sometimes I don't see the fruit in playing Patrick Beverley a bunch of games in a bunch of minutes in a game in January. I don't see it. Maybe it leads to you giving me the Max Christie minutes when I need him the most in playoffs, so he can keep up with the fast-footed long players like he's supposed to. Maybe you think that doing it this way will make it so that Max is a better player later. If that's how it plans out, I'll be happy then. But right now, I'm too zoomed in to look at these rotations and see anything less than it being us not taking the first 3 quarters and a half seriously, essentially. That's what I see there. We just bull crapping around, thinking that the last second we're going to be able to save ourselves. And that is a bad team's trait. So that's what I got to say, man. I know I'm giving you the same content basically, but I want this team to get it. I want them to understand that they do need to file a grievance against the referees. In fact, I think Genie should be on that a lot. Like this should not be something that we handle as normal, because the reaction to it ain't normal. The whole country is reacting to it a certain way. So we need to react to it in an unprecedented way as well, in my opinion. We need to raise some noise about that from a front office standpoint. And the players and the coaches, I think they've done their part. Gave it a day. I don't want to hear about it tomorrow. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I don't want to hear it tomorrow. Because if you drag it out any further than this, then I understand that you're using it as a scapegoat. And ain't that a metaphor for everything else we talk about with this front office and this league, this team rather? It just, everything's a scapegoat onto somebody else, pass the blame. Nah, work on the tendencies. Small balls while you lost. You know what I mean? That's what we could have controlled that ultimately didn't get done. So rotations, etc. So that's what I want to see, man. You can talk about it tomorrow tonight if you guys want to continue to talk about it. I don't mind Brian coming out saying, listen, there's more to say. But after that, I want us to get away from that. Otherwise, it looked like a funny little excuse that is riddled in more losses and mentality that attaches itself to more losses. I ain't with it. Let's control what we can control, and let's see the fruit in that. Let's be happy with that. Let's have fun with attacking these weaknesses. Let's have fun with the idea that we could possibly be champions if we reach our greatest peak. That's fun, man. When you see that you're getting better at something and you see the other team is losing because of it, that is absolutely and utterly fun. So let's have that. BDL 44. I thank you all for watching.